13 years ago at Easter, my baby niece died. She was only 4 days old. She died in her mum's arms. Eve Caris, she was named. Firstborn, beloved. It's one of the hardest things I've ever done, watching her die, and also to watch the anguish of her parents as they realised there was nothing they could do to save her. Today we remember Jesus, who was also a firstborn beloved. And the people who loved him watched helpless as his life and their hope drained away. It's really hard to just be with people in their suffering. We want to make it better, do something, say something, change the outcome, fix the problem. It's hard to do nothing, to just be alongside and be with people in their pain and their grief. But if you can do it, it can be a real gift. A friend of mine is an NHS chaplain. I love hearing her talk about her work. And recently she visited a patient in a mental health ward who's been going through a really bad time. He didn't want to talk, and she asked if it was all right if she stayed with him for a bit. After a while, he said, "I sense something unconditional about you." Sitting with him in silence, she offered him something of the unconditional love of God that's with us whether we know it or not. God's presence is always there, attentive, concrete, whether we sense it or we don't. Jesus' mother and her sister Mary and John, his friend, the beloved disciple, they stay with Jesus at the cross when most of the others run away. They're just there. They don't hide from the agony they witness in Jesus or from the trauma they're experiencing in themselves. They stay. In these corona days, we may feel helpless at the suffering in the hospitals, in other countries across the world, in families that are deeply challenged by the conditions of the lockdown. We know about it, and often there's little we can do. We might have friends who are isolated or suffering from mental health problems, or who are anxious about money. Sometimes it's enough to be willing to sit with the pain of the world and not to run away. Sometimes it's enough just to let friends know, in whatever way we can, that we're there. In the Cathedral of Sagrada Familia in Barcelona, there's a figure of Christ on the cross above the altar. It's a standard crucifix in some ways and quite unusual in others. But what's different about this figure of Christ on the cross is that his parents are alongside. There's a statue of Mary on one side and Joseph on the other, who probably wasn't there actually. But his presence in this picture in the cathedral is a sign from the architect that Jesus' heavenly Father is there, invisible, at his son's moment of greatest loneliness and need. Jesus does feel deserted. We know he cries out, "Why have you forsaken me?" But his Father is there, present, alongside. And for us too, whatever we're going through, however alone, helpless or abandoned we feel, God is present. Silent, maybe, but sitting alongside us in our pain, offering something unconditional.